You are the light of the world.
A city on a hill cannot be hidden.
Nor do people light a lamp and put it under a basket,
but on a stand.
And it gives light to the whole house.
In the same way, let your light shine before others.
Before others.
So that they may see your good works.
And give glory to your Father in heaven.
You are the light of the world.
You are the light of the
You
world.
are the light of
You
the
are the
world.
light of the world.
And the light of the world is for everyone.
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 Gosh, I'm just so cranked to have you with us today. Today marks a kickoff of our fall. Falls are always big here at Lincoln Christian Church. We're trying to accomplish so much more this fall going into the holidays. There's lots of big events coming. You're going to love being a part of this family during that time. If we haven't met yet, I'm Ron Otto. I'm one of the ministers here at Lincoln Christian Church. I'm also a grandparent. Today is National Grandparents' Day. Did you know that? National Grandparents' Day. There's a whole bunch of us who are around you right now. If you're a grandparent, be proud, raise your hand. Look at that. You better believe it, man. We love our grandkids. This is awesome. So last weekend, I know I wasn't here last weekend, Labor Day weekend, we planned a camping trip with our grandkids. We took them to Warren Dunes State Park in Michigan. And when we got there were just these huge sand dunes. And I'm the grandfather of 5. And I know that's hard to believe for a 38-year-old, but I am. And the minute my grandkids saw that, they're like, Papa, can we climb that? I'm like, absolutely. And so we climbed all the way to the top of that thing, and I was watching our grandchildren jumping and running and rolling and just covered with sand. And then at one moment, I was sitting by my firstborn granddaughter, Marissa, and I said, Marissa, she's 10, who put all this sand up here? And she smiled, she said, God did. I said, that's right. And then I asked Audrey, our 8-year-old, and I asked Ben, our 6-year-old, and I asked Alex, our 5-year-old, who put this sand up here? They all gave me the same answer, God did. And then that little blonde there is named Emma. She's 3, and I said to Emma, Emma, who put all this sand up here? She said, I didn't do it. We got a little bit more work to do with that one there, don't we? Listen, our priorities here at Lincoln Christian Church are God, family, others. God, family, others. And we encourage you to spend a lot of family time because it just goes by so quick. The elders here at Lincoln Christian Church, anytime I run off with family, they love that. And they encourage that as well, too. So I know I wasn't here last Sunday with you all, but I love you and thank you so much for just another weekend off to spend with them. Something that's coming up I want you to know about, Dr. J.K. Jones is going to be with us. Now, Dr. J.K. Jones has a lot of history here in Lincoln, a professor at LCU. He's been working up in Bloomington. He's now retiring, but we're bringing him back to Lincoln for a very special moment. We are launching a series starting October 2nd titled Running on Empty. Listen to me. Many of your friends and family members right now are experiencing an emptiness they cannot explain. Their joy tanks right now are depleted. And you and I, we have a little bit of an answer for all of that. We can help them through this time of emptiness, but we're going to talk about that in October. And I've asked Dr. Jones to come back and to launch this series for us. He is a gifted communicator. You're not going to want to miss that. In fact, at all the doors and out at the Welcome Center, there are these little cards which have that graphic on it, running on empty, and it's an invite card. And I want you to extend this card to somebody in your life. We're going to talk more about that here in a few moments. But even our 6-week fall small groups that Brandon is putting together right now, all of our small groups are going to also spend time then talking about the sermon that morning. That week, when they meet as small groups, they'll also be talking about running on empty and how do we find our way through this and how do we encourage others and keep their tanks filled as well too. All of that, it starts in October. And we want you to be a part of it. You'll hear more about that in a few moments. However, my privilege today is to launch our September series, which is, guess what? Titled Be a Light. Do you see all these lights around here? It's titled, Be a Light. Is it just me, or does it feel like we're living in a really dark time right now? I mean, today is 9/11, and that carries most of our minds back to a really dark time, but things haven't seemed to get better since then. First, COVID hit, and that was a dark time, and then we had these elections, and the elections revealed how deeply divided this nation really is politically, and many of us, man, that can really get us angry when we start talking about that political divide. And then right after that, we hit this economic crisis. This inflation took off, and some of us are still not even beginning to get through that. You're struggling right now. You're in that kind of a darkness, and this is around all of us. It's around our family and friends as well, too. And we're experiencing economic darkness, or maybe you're in the midst of a personal darkness. There's people I know that are in the middle of a relationship darkness. Some of our friends are in a spiritual darkness they're having trouble breaking out of. Occupational darkness, we have some of our people in one right now. Just a few weeks ago, as I was beginning to put this together, this series, one of our ladies, I told her I was going to tell this story. One of our ladies came up to me and she said, "Ron, pray for me." She said, "I am the only Christian in my entire department at work." And she said, "Man, it can be a really dark place to work sometimes." And I kind of got a smile on my face a little bit, and I looked at her and I said, "Isn't it amazing that in this dark corner of the world, God made sure to put one of his brightest lights?" And she got this grin on her face, and then she said, "Oh, you're good," she said, and she walked away from me. It's like, I meant it. Listen to me. Do you know that God has already ordained someone in this world that only you can be a light to? You got to let that sink in for a moment. That there's someone out there that's waiting just for you to shine your light in their life. When Jesus came, Jesus was all about light in a dark world. In fact, it couldn't have been more dark in the world he came in. When Jesus came, there was political corruption of Rome. There was the priestly corruption of the temple. There was the leadership corruption of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. This is the world Jesus came into. Why do you think Jesus' story of his birth begins on a dark night with shepherds out in the middle of the night in darkness, and suddenly a bright light appeared? Why do you think the story starts that way? It's really representative. It's figurative of what Jesus is coming into the world to bring light to us. And here's something interesting. Those of us who have Jesus have an inner light that the darkness cannot put out. Oh, this is such good stuff. This is found in John chapter 8. Jesus said, "I am a light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life." Jesus is saying, I'm this light, and anyone who follows me has that light as well, too. Not everyone has found that light, by the way. Some of the people we care most about are still in the grip of darkness right now, and it breaks our heart. Jesus then turned around and said, "Oh, by the way, this light that I am to the world, I am now making all of you lights." Matthew chapter 5 is what you heard in the video this morning. You are the light of the world. You're like a city on a hill. You can't hide that. Nor do we light a lamp and put it under a basket. No, we lift it up so it brings light to everyone around us. "So let your light shine," Jesus said. Let it shine so that people will see your good works, and then they'll ultimately bring glory to your Father. Is that beautiful? One of the men who heard that morning, Jesus said that, is a man by the name of Levi. Levi would later on come to be known as Matthew. He would write one of the Gospels of the New Testament. He'd tell his own story. It was brilliant. He's a tax collector. But when Levi, when he heard Jesus say, "You're a light," he struggled with, how can I be a light to my friends? And then he came up with a plan. I'm going to be reading from Luke chapter 5, starting with verse 27. Here's how it reads. After this, Jesus went out and he saw a tax collector by the name of Levi sitting at his tax booth. Follow me, Jesus said. And Levi got up and left everything and followed him. Wow, could it really be that easy? Just 2 words, follow me, and a man would leave everything to follow Jesus? How do you explain it? Levi here must have been just primed for the picking. His heart must have been so empty. Do you understand that people who can live in outward success, he's a tax collector, he's wealthy, can still experience an emptiness inside? And it's probably what he had. A tax collector in Jesus' day was really looked down upon, especially by the Jews. They despised the tax because he was collecting from the Jewish people and sending money to Rome, and he was getting rich on it, and they just despised a tax collector. Unlike today, of course. But and so Matthew would have never been invited to parties. He would have never been invited to gatherings. He would have never been invited to weddings. And all of that was about to change when one young Jewish man said, I'll hang out with you. His name was Jesus. If you don't hear anything else today, from just these 2 verses, learn this. One conversation can change everything for someone. Just one conversation, if God's in the middle of that, can change everything. Well, Matthew's excited now at this point, and so verse 29, then Levi held a great banquet for Jesus at his house. A large crowd of tax collectors and others were eating with them. Oh my goodness, your version might say sinners were eating with him. just for me for just a moment. Matthew goes to Jesus and says, hey, listen, I got these friends and they're really out on the edge. If I threw a party, would you come and meet my friends? And Jesus says, is the high priest a Jew? You bet I would. I added that last part, by the way. That's not in the Bible. Matthew goes out and does something so risky. And for Jesus, what could be better? A chance to maybe engage in some spiritual conversations. So Jesus goes to this party. If you're reading this from your text, if there was music behind this text, the next thing you would hear is this. Dun, dun, dun. You'd hear that because the Pharisees are about to come into the story. Okay, you ready for this? Here's what it says in verse 30. But the Pharisees, dun, 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 and the teachers of the law who belonged to their sect. They belonged to their sect. That means they were very divisive politically back then. Oh gosh, please hear that in today's world that we live. It's not that you have different political views than others, but I mean, they were really purposefully divisive with their views. They belonged to their sect, it says. They came to complain to the disciples, why does your master eat and drink with tax collectors and with sinners? Oh my goodness. When I hear the Pharisees come into the story, I have that some people mentality. You ever had that? Where you just walked away going, some people, wow, what is their story? So I was out in Colorado this summer, stopped at a coffee shop to check emails and everything, and while I was there, I decided to have a donut, don't tell mom, and I bought a donut, and I'm walking away, and the cashier seems to be determined for me to take my receipt. He said, sir, your receipt. And I was like, oh, that's okay. And and he said it louder, sir, your receipt. I was like, what in the world? I turned around, I took my receipt, and as I'm walking away, I'm thinking, I can't imagine any scenario in life where I would need this receipt. Cop pulls me over. I see you got a donut there. You got a receipt for that? You know what? I mean, and as I walked away, I had this thought of, wow, some people. The Pharisees were filled with some people mentality, some people. And you just don't spend time with some people. Jesus doesn't seem to have that mentality in this story. In fact, teenagers, just for a minute, I need you to hear this. Jesus was not so easily offended. If anything offended Jesus, it was people who were so self-righteous they judged others. That offended him. But Jesus wasn't offended to spend time with people who weren't believers yet. In fact, it would get him criticized with a title. He's a friend of sinners. And that was meant to be a slam. And you need to know that Jesus wore that like a badge of honor. He wasn't afraid to be seen with sinners. He wasn't afraid to go to a party with them. Jesus has a response to the Pharisees. It is absolutely profound. Verse 31, Jesus answered the Pharisees, "It is not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick. And I have not come to call the righteous, but sinners to repentance." That is the heart of Jesus' ministry right there in that statement. That is also the heart of our ministry here at Lincoln Christian Church. We believe that one day people take their last breath, and on that day there's only going to be one thing that matters, and that is their relationship to Jesus. It's one of the most loving things we could possibly do. Do you understand when Levi threw the party and was introducing his closest friends, who were shady people, he introduced his closest friends to Jesus, and then he stood back and he watched Jesus as he smiled, as he was in spiritual conversations, as he was just getting to know people. Levi looked around the room. He saw the other disciples of Jesus having a good time, talking with his friends, just being friendly, just being nice. Some of them were asking spiritual questions. They were answering them, that's all. How much that meant to Matthew, that Jesus was so inclusive of his friends. This is the heart of our ministry. We think that telling people about Jesus is one of the most loving things we can do. It's intentional love here. Because one day you take your last breath, one day you will stand before a judge. One day you will be assigned one of two places. And for people who do not have the light of Jesus in their life, they will wake up to the worst nightmare they could imagine. And we have a chance to change all that. All right, so just in my own imagination now, after the party, Matthew goes to Jesus and he says, wow. He says, "Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for being nice to my friends." Jesus in that moment says, "You know what, Matthew, let me say a couple things. Number one, I love your heart. You've only been following a few weeks here, and you've already introduced it. I have people who have followed me for years and have never introduced me to anyone. And you just could not sit by and allow your friends to be trapped in darkness. I love your heart. Second, Matthew, I love your courage. You are willing to take a risk. And that just means so much. All right, that's just in my imagination. It's not in the text, but now let's talk about you and I. You and I, we hold this light that could change somebody's life. But we're nervous, we're scared, the risk is too great. What if they say no? What if I invite them to come to church with me and they say no? They'll be polite about it. Trust me, I've invited people and yeah, we're not really churchgoers, but thank you. I mean, they're polite about it. It's no big deal. And I just simply, you know what? Maybe some other time. And that's all you do. It's not that difficult. Today, I'm asking you to do a couple things. First thing, I want you to be praying for 5 people you're going to invite to church over the next year. 5 people. You don't have to invite them all this week, but you're going to start praying for 5 people to invite. Now, some of you are going, who do I invite? I'm going to use a 5-finger exercise this morning so you'll know who to invite. Number one, first of all, the thumb represents everyone who's closest to you. Your thumb represents your family, your friends, your coworkers. These are the people you spend the most time with. Someone in that circle, they don't go to church anywhere. They're not even sure they believe in God yet. And so that's going to be a person you're going to look to invite to come to a program here. Then the index finger. The index finger represents someone who has pointed you in life. They might be a coach or a teacher or an instructor, someone who's tried to lead you by pointing you in a direction, okay? So the index finger. Now what you've all wondered if I would do, the middle finger. You know? Oh yeah, I'm taking a risk today. The middle finger. Can we just deal with this for a moment? Let's make the middle finger people we don't like. All right? Can we do that? You can handle this. People we don't like. Let me tell you something. Someone right now probably came to mind, someone you really don't like, but you know they're far away from God. And what if an invitation was accepted? What if a friendship began? What if one conversation changed everything for you and them? I mean, they need a family. I'm so proud of our family. I want to share you with everyone. They need a community. And right now we represent that. And so that middle finger represents someone you don't like. The ring finger represents someone that might have come to mind who's in a relationship struggle right now, or a damaged relationship, or a failed relationship, a divorcee or something maybe. That's the ring finger. And then finally, that last finger, that pinky, represents someone in this life who just came up short. We all know someone who's financially, they're just struggling, they've come up short, or in a job or something. They're just struggling in this world. They've come up short, and you know these people. I'm going to ask you to think about someone, 5 names. And then the second thing I'm going to ask you to do is to write their name on a light bulb and be a part of our light wall. Out here, just on the other side of this wall in the family room, is a huge light wall that says, this is for, and you can't read it just yet, but it says everyone. And what we're doing is we are writing the names of people we're going to invite over the next year. We're going to be praying about it, and we're looking for an opportunity to invite. We're writing their names on a light bulb. We're screwing it in. So as that light wall glows for us over this next year, it's going to be there all year, it will remind us constantly that we're a light to these people. I've already put in a couple more names have been coming to mind. Even this morning while I've been preaching, a name came to mind of someone I want to invite. And so every time I come up with someone, I'm praying about it, and I'm writing their name and inserting it. The eldership is all doing it. The staff is all doing it. We're asking you to participate and come do it too. You and I. Not my words. You are a light in this world. Jesus said that. So let your light shine. This morning, if you're not a follower of Jesus Christ, you don't have this light that we're talking about. It's not that we don't go through dark times. We do go through dark times, but there's something that carries us through that darkness, a light that brings us through it. And if you don't have Jesus, you don't have that light. We'd like to change that for you today. Maybe you're ready. Maybe right now the Spirit's saying, you know what? I need to step out in front of this family, make this family my family, make this church my church, become an outward follower of Jesus Christ. No secrets. I'm not going to be a secret follower. I'm going to step out in front of everyone. Maybe that's what you need to do as we sing our closing song here today. If that's something God's asking you to do, I'll meet you right down front. Okay, I'll meet you. But this light that has been covered up, this little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. Would you join us this month in praying and signing a light bulb with a name? Father in heaven, I wonder how many names just came to mind in here today. How many names of people real close by? They don't go to church somewhere. They may have fallen out with the church. They may not believe in God, but their name came to our heart. Father, is this something you're asking us to do? I think so. I think the Spirit is talking today. So Father, give us courage. Grow our heart so we'll take this risk. Father, may these people find their way into our ministry and then hear the most important name in all of history, the name of Jesus. I'm praying for them who are not even our friends yet, who are about to become part of our family. In Jesus' name, and everyone said, amen.